Hey everyone, welcome back again. Hey, this is Yoni here. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders here at ControlUp. I want to welcome you to this, what hopefully will be a great 7.1 webinar with lots of live demos as usual. We have a great turnout today. So again, thanks for joining, much appreciated. We have a few guys from ControlUp also with me here. They will monitor the questions and the chat windows. So please, if you have any questions during the webinar on some of the new features, on the architecture, or even commercial questions, please do use the questions widget to ask your questions. We will try to answer them online, and if we see something which might interest the entire audience, we'll obviously call it out and I'll try to answer during the webinar. Okay, so go ahead and use that as much as you can. Okay, so we have a nice agenda plan for today. We'll start with just, I'm assuming some of you guys are seeing us for the first time. So we'll do a quick intro about the company. I will then cover the ControlUp architecture in a high level, both our online cloud-based solution and the on-prem option. And then probably the main dish, the main volume of this webinar will be about the new features we are introducing in ControlUp 7.1. And the new reports, which some of them are really, really great, we have added to our Insights Analytics dashboard. Okay? And again, mainly live demos. So hopefully you will enjoy the show. And let's just start without any further ado. Okay, so about ControlUp, right? We've been out there for a while now. I think lots of guys in the end-user computing space are already familiar with our solution and company, and we are making great strides into penetrating the generic server market, whether it's VMware-based or cloud-based or whatnot. We're currently having our 7.1 major release, which is another, I think, great indication of the progress we have made. The company has grown a lot in the previous years. So now we're actually almost 100 employees. Most of us are based here in Israel, where we have the R&D, the product teams, support, etc. And we have the headquarters in the Silicon Valley, where we have another sales organization, business development, etc. The customer adoption rate has been great. It's actually phenomenal. We are now crossing the 800 customers mark. And we keep onboarding new customers on a monthly basis. And this, we're seeing it from all sectors, from all regions. Europe is a great market for us. We are seeing tremendous growth, whether it's in Germany, the UK, France, Spain, the Nordics, East Europe, you name it. We're seeing excellent adoption. And I think by the end of this webinar, you will see the main reasons for that. Now, besides being a commercial company and obviously, interested in growing our customer base and our feature set, we are heavily involved in the different community projects and conferences. And I think it's a core value here in ControlUp. And you can see some of the examples on screen. So some of you may have seen the free tools we have, whether it's the Login Simulator, which, by the way, we're going to release a new version in a couple of weeks. Whether it's the NetScaler monitor, which is another free utility which enables you guys to get real-time metrics on NetScaler boxes. Whether it's white papers we publish, which are based on our global benchmarks. We had a really great webinar we published like a month ago about login duration in the healthcare industry with lots of details and interesting stats. And we are going to publish new white papers in the next couple of months. And besides that, we are heavily involved with the different user groups and various community events. So, and I think again, it's a great contribution to the community, but we also get a lot in return, whether it's product feedback or ideas, or just being involved with the community leaders, whether it's CDPs, vExperts, etc. Now, I want to quickly review the architecture before we'll dive into the new features. So we basically have two modes of deployment, right? The first one is where the ControlUp backend or control plane is hosted on our Amazon-based GeoCluster. Okay, and that's by far the most common and most popular deployment mode. When we're working in that mode, there are two major components deployed at the customer site. The first one would be the ControlUp console itself, which is our main real-time interface for viewing the different entities in real time, running actions, and you will see during the live demos. And the other entity is the ControlUp Monitor Service, which is a headless Windows service running on a dedicated box, connected to all the relevant agents and data collectors. So both of these entities, whether it's the ControlUp Console or the ControlUp Monitor Service, they collect data from the various data collectors we have in the customer environment. The first one, and probably the most important one, is our very own ControlUp agent, which can run on any Windows guest, whether it's a VDI endpoint, an RDS server, a domain controller, a SQL server, and even physical Windows boxes. Right? So any Windows workload is supported. And just for you Linux guys out there, we are extending support for Linux by the end of this year. Okay, so stay tuned. It's going to be really great. But currently our agent supports Windows guests. Beside the agent-based data collector, we have various remote API collectors, which connect to different entities in order to collect data and display it in real time. This includes the Citrix XenDesktop APIs. It includes the various hypervisors, whether it's vSphere, XenServer, Hyper-V, and new in 7.1 is the NetScaler API data collector. We'll cover that during the demo. It's pretty cool. And for the guys out there who already use Nutanix boxes, I do have news for you. ControlUp 7.2, which is due in about a month or two, will add support for the Nutanix Acropolis hypervisor. Okay, so in addition to that, we also support Amazon, the Amazon EC2 API service, and I'll show you during the demo. And we have plans to include additional cloud providers such as Microsoft Azure. So the way the ControlUp architecture works is that, again, on the customer network, we have the real-time console, the monitor service, who are directly connected to all the agents and the various data collectors. The console will display data in real time. The monitor service will aggregate the data and upload it to Amazon for historical reporting. And the various ControlUp backend services will run hosted on the cloud, whether it's the configuration database, the license server, etc. This enables us to provide great value without demanding any major resources from the customer network. Obviously, POCs can be done in an extremely fast manner. And even from an historical reporting point of view, it's up to us, the vendor, to take care of the databases, the servers, etc. So again, any customer who can work with a cloud-based solution, I strongly recommend using this method. Obviously, some customers, whether it's due to compliance or regulations, cannot work with a cloud-based solution. In this case, we enable the customer to deploy the ControlUp backend or control plane locally. Okay, this mainly involves a Windows server, which will run the configuration database, the license services, etc. A SQL database for various orchestration-related services, and another server to host the ControlUp Insights solution, which includes both the database layer and the web server. Okay, so again, if you have any more in-depth questions about the architecture, security, or whatnot, just use the questions panel, or you can contact us offline, and we'll get you all the answers you need. Okay, so again, the main dish, ControlUp 7.1, our new solution. ControlUp 7.1 is already available on our website. It's been out there since March, so last month. It's a minor release in the name, but in reality, we added tons of features comparing to ControlUp 7.0. And you can see the main one listed on screen. So we added lots of value for Citrix-based customers, whether it's enhancing our XenDesktop integration, and we are now collecting published app data, and I'll cover that in a few minutes in the demo, and whether it's the NetScaler monitoring piece. So we did have the NetScaler utility before, but now it's integrated into the main product, which enables all kinds of interesting features like real-time alerts, historical reporting, etc. And we'll cover that as well. Now, for all the non-Citrix customers out there, whether it's Horizon or just plain generic virtual servers, we also added a great host of features. So we are now integrated with the NVIDIA APIs, so we can show you GPU stats on the VM and process level, which is great for anyone utilizing GPUs in his data center. We have made great enhancements to our host data collection and VM data collection. So we now show a fuller display of host metrics, metadata, and we'll cover that during the demo, and some interesting new metrics for VMs. And finally, we enhanced our UI capabilities, and we now offer assisted troubleshooting or assisted navigation, which makes troubleshooting much easier. On the insights front, we added a bunch of major, interesting, and feature-rich reports. One is concentrated around user experience metrics for sessions, so really great for any VDI environment. The sizing recommendation is a really cool report. We'll cover that during the demo, but essentially it enables you guys to make sure that your workloads are properly sized and basically stop wasting CPU and RAM resources on your VMware, XenServer, or Hyper-V virtual environments. And finally, this is the newest addition. This is actually still in beta. The environment assessment report is a great way to get a high-level overview of your environment over the last month and see if you have any special bottlenecks, what are the major apps being used, and some overall stats about the environment. It's really rich. We'll cover that during the demo. Okay, so let's just start with the 7.1 new features. Okay, so I'm now showing on screen the new 7.1 real-time console. You can see already, I think, some of the new enhancements in regards to the UI. We have changed to what we call a white theme, right? So now the background of all the cells, including the metric cells, are white. If some of you are familiar with the previous black theme, no worries. You can easily go back to the previous theme by changing a simple registry key. We have a support article on that, so if you want to change back the default 7.1 theme, just go ahead and configure the registry. Okay, so let's start with, anyone who has seen ControlUp before has probably seen the I/O drill down scenario we have, where we show, basically we have an a really high I/O usage on one of the hosts, and we have the regular drill down sequence to find out which process is causing that. And I thought it would be cool to show how this troubleshooting process becomes much more simple with the new 7.1 assisted navigation feature. Okay, so those of you with the keen eyes already noticed this new blue bar in here. So let me show you again, right? So you know what, before diving into the feature, let me just show you a brief description of what you're seeing here, right? Again, for newcomers. So this is the ControlUp console. On the left side, you can see here the tree of all the managed objects. Here you can see the different entities we support and monitor, whether it's the hypervisors. And again, as mentioned, we support VMware, XenServer, and Hyper-V. And Nutanix is coming in 7.2. Besides the hypervisor remote API data collection, we have the Amazon EC2 support, which can be added again via the Add Cloud Connection screen. We have the XenDesktop sites we can integrate with, and this is just like the hypervisors and Amazon. This is being achieved by connecting to the broker API service. So again, all of these remote extensions, whether it's the hypervisor layer, cloud-based connections, XenDesktop, or NetScaler, do not require any agents. It's all being accomplished by configuring the remote API service and starting to collect data. And new in 7.1, we have the NetScaler data collector. Again, adding it is really, really simple. You just click on Add NetScaler. You can choose HTTP or HTTPS, and just point control up to the management IP address of the NetScaler box. We'll cover that in more depth when we'll cover the NetScaler feature. So these are all the extensions we support in 7.1, hypervisors, XenDesktop sites, NetScalers, and Amazon EC2 integrations. And beyond that, we have the ControlUp agent running inside the managed computers. And again, we support any Windows box. So this could be, a legacy XenOps 6.5 RDS server. This could be a newer Windows 10 VDI endpoint. This could be any of your supporting infrastructure, whether it's domain controllers, license servers, PVS servers, SQL, Horizon environments, whatnot, and obviously any workload with GPUs in it. Right, now, once all of these connections are in place and configured, they will populate the various real-time views you see in here. Okay, so obviously the host view will show you data coming in from the various hypervisor connections. Computers will show you all the managed computers and also all the virtual machines or VDAs we have discovered via the remote API collectors. Sessions will show you each and every user sessions we found, whether via the managed computer agents or via the XenDesktop connection. And finally, processes is a flat list of each and every process running on every managed computer. Okay, some of the new views we added are obviously storage in 7.0. This is entirely based on the hypervisor connections, and here you will see data stores we found on VMware, Hyper-V, or Xen server. And another new addition in 7.1 is the NetScaler view. In here, we'll see a line for each NetScaler box configured, and we'll cover that in depth shortly. Okay, so I'm going back to the new enhancement in 7.1, which is called contextual navigation. So some of you might have seen our drill down sequence before, where we had to drill down manually all the way to find an offending process causing an IO issue. Now, new in 7.1 is the feature where when you actually click on a cell, our new virtual expert will suggest to you the next navigation steps. Okay, you can see it here on screen. I will show you how to configure it in a sec. But the cool thing here is that ControlUp 7.1 comes out of the box with more than 50 contextual navigation rules, which makes troubleshooting much easier. And just to demonstrate that, I'm going to click on the final navigation recommendation here, which is basically processes sorted by IO on the relevant VM causing the issue. So I'm going to click here. ControlUp will automatically do the drill down sequence for me, and you will actually see immediately the process causing the issue. Okay, so that's, again, much simplified comparing to previous ControlUp versions. I can find the root cause in a matter of seconds. Right? In this case, you can see we have a process consuming 10,000 IOPS, obviously causing an high IO usage on the data store, causing latency, etc. And for those of you who are not familiar with ControlUp, we also offer the option to get a live screenshot of the user running, in this case, the Dynamo process, and actually getting another dimension of data. In this case, we can actually see the app running or causing the IO issue in this case. Okay, so again, troubleshooting is much easier with 7.1 using the contextual navigation option. And we do offer the option to select specific processes and terminate them, okay, which in this case will obviously remediate the issue. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the host screen. I want to explain the way contextual navigation works. So let me show you the UI setting for that. So we have a new setting screen called contextual navigation. And in here you can do a few things. You can see the various built-in contextual navigation rules. Like, for example, the rule we have used in this case would be part of the host view, and specifically the one regarding the data store read-write IOPS cell. Okay, so the way it looks like, it's based on the original column you have highlighted, and then you can see the next drill down suggestion. Okay, so in this case, we're using the host view data store IOPS column, and the drill down, the suggested drill down is configured in here. So it's configured to go to the computers view using the detailed view IO presets, and then sort this preset based on the, in this case, virtual disk read IOPS. Okay, so the way this rule will behave, let me show you. So I'm going to click on the data store read write IOPS. IOPS column, and when I double click this specific cell, ControlUp will act based on the rule we just defined. Okay, so you can see we drill down to the computers view. ControlUp automatically selected the detail view IO preset, and it's automatically sorted based on the virtual disk read IOPS. Okay, so you can go ahead and configure your own rules. You can edit or disable the community-based rules, but I strongly suggest to stay with the community-based defaults because they are excellent for quick troubleshooting. Okay, and obviously this is relevant for all the views, right? So if you want to troubleshoot, start the troubleshooting sequence from for example, from the storage point of view, just go to storage and click on the relevant cell, and then you can follow the suggested navigation path. Okay, so this is enough for now on the new assisted troubleshooting. Now, before diving into some of the new features in 7.1, I do want to do a quick recap regarding our existing user experience metrics. I think this is a crucial
Yoni,
part for. Yeah, sorry, Nal.
Hey, yeah, Yoni, there are some questions about the release dates of 7.1 on-prem and other versions of ControlUp. So if you could address this down the presentation, it would be great, I think, because there are a few questions about the release dates of.
Okay. No, what? So I'll tackle this with thanks. Okay, so I'll tackle this immediately, and then we'll move on with the rest of the live demo. So 7.1 for online customers is GA. You can download it from the website. It's there since March. 7.1 for on-prem customers, we have release candidates available for download, and this includes both the ControlUp real-time module and Insights on premises version 3. So anyone who wants to try out the release candidates can contact our support via support@controlup.com, and they will send you the binaries. We hope to achieve GA status by the end of this month, actually. Okay, and again, this includes both the ControlUp on-premises solution, the real-time module 7.1, and Insights on premises version 3. And just regarding our future plans, we have ControlUp 7.2 lined up, which the beta is planned for May timeframe, so next month. Okay, so I'm moving on with the demo. So again, a quick recap of our user experience capabilities. This is the sessions view. So each line here represents a user who is currently logged on to one of my VDI or physical endpoints, whether it's Citrix, VMware, or whatnot. And as probably some of you may know, we have some pretty cool user experience metric. So first, a new addition in 7.1 would be the user experience score. Okay, so this is an interesting column. It's actually kind of like a score which looks on all the relevant user experience metrics, and based on the color of the UX column with the worst score, this will be the score of the entire UX score metric. Okay, so what I mean by that, we have a few columns affecting this UX score. This includes the login duration, application load time, latency, and anything we deem relevant for user experience. Now, if all of them are green, the UX score will be green. If one of these UX-related metrics is yellow, the UX score will be yellow, and if at least one of them is red, then the UX score itself will be red. So it's a great way to quickly see if you have any issues with user experience across the entire user population. In this case, you can see that this guy was having a slow login duration, this guy is suffering from slow application load time, etc. Okay, now regarding the individual's user experience metrics, we have obviously login duration. It's been there for a while. We have the application load time, which is pretty cool. It's a new addition in 7.0. We have the latency metrics, and here also we have news to share. So the latest latency metrics are now, we actually support 4 different protocols. Okay, so the latency last metric supports HDX and PCOIP. And the RDT metric supports RDP sessions and blast sessions. Okay, so now we cover the full, the 4 most common remoting protocols, whether it's blast, RDP, HDX, or PCOIP. And our bandwidth metrics also supports the 4 protocols, right? So whether it's RDP, blast, PCOIP, or ICA, we can see all of them in that specific bandwidth usage and bandwidth limits metrics. Okay, now all of this is in real time, right? So if something happens, you will see it immediately here on screen, whether it's major bandwidth usage. You know what? We can do a quick test here. I have a XenDesktop 7.13 session in here, a published desktop, and we can run a YouTube video in here. We can see what's happening, and again, the feedback will be live. So Again, performance here is a bit slow currently, so I'm going to skip that so we can cover other sessions, other features. We'll go back to the demo. Okay, and so I'm moving on to another new feature in ControlUp 7.1. So since ControlUp 6, we are supporting the integration of ControlUp with the XenDesktop site itself. And this always included things like the delivery groups, the VDAs, the sessions. And you might have seen some of that in your existing installations or POCs. In 7.1, we actually enhanced our XenDesktop integration, and we now also support collecting published application metrics. Okay, so before covering that, I just want to show you how the integration works. So it's really simple. The only thing we need to configure is the address of one of the brokers in the XenDesktop site. Okay, by doing that, we will automatically detect the other broker in the site, and from that moment on, our ControlUp data collector every 20 seconds will pull the relevant VDA, delivery group sessions, and new in 7.1 published app metrics, and will show it in real time. Okay, so nothing much to configure besides the broker name and IP address, and port. Now, once this is configured, the folders view will be used to show the different delivery groups with all the respective metrics. Computers will show all the VDAs we have found, which includes availability metrics, registration states, etc. And the sessions view will show you the XenDesktop sessions we have found, right, with the respective metrics and published app data, etc. Now, the new addition in 7.1 will be shown in the applications view. Okay, so in here we have a new preset called XenDesktop Applications, which is configured by default when you focus on the XenDesktop site. And in here you can actually see a list of all the published applications we have found on the various XenDesktop sites you have added. Okay, so we have obviously the published application name, we have the creation date, we have the app state, and we have a bunch of real-time metrics which will really help you figuring out what's the current usage and current health of that specific published app. Okay, so let's review some of the metrics we have here. So this is an IE11 published app. It's called the corporate intranet for the user-facing receivers or whatnot. So we can see that right now we have seven users running this specific published application. We can see the average login duration for these 7 sessions running this app. And we can also see the average latency and bandwidth usage. And all of these is achievable if you actually deploy the ControlUp agents on the RDS or VDI endpoints running the published apps. Okay. Besides that, we have some interesting health metrics for the published app itself. We can show you on how many XenDesktop VDAs the application is published on and how many of them are actually available. So in this case, you can see the app is published on 4 different Xen app servers, but only 3 of them are available, which is causing the available publish ratio to hit 75%. And all of this is configurable for alerts, right? So if you have a major published app and you want to get notified in real time if the available to publish ratio is dropping, you can do that, okay? The same is true for other availability metrics we have in here. Now, another cool feature is the drill down feature. You can drill down to any of the published apps. You can see in real time the actual users who are running this published app. Okay, so we have a new XD apps in news column, which will show you all the apps the users are launching right now. And this can be viewed either by drilling down to a specific published app or by watching the sessions view. And there you can basically sort the view based on the apps in use, and you can see who is running what on where. Okay, so this is the published app module. One last note I want to mention in here is that we also going to expose an historical report based on this data. Okay, this is due for Synergy timeframe, so not so far from now. We're hoping to go live in 2 or 3 weeks. I actually have the report mock-up in here. Right, so there you go. So this is the report we're going to publish basically in 2 weeks, okay? It's quite similar to the existing application usage report. The major difference would be that you can obviously choose the relevant XenDesktop sites, and then you can choose the relevant published app and view the usage over time based on the time frame you selected. And you can also see a detailed review of each user who was actually running the report with all the relevant instances. Okay, so it's a full-blown published app usage report coming in 2 weeks' time. Okay, so assuming no major questions on the published app module, I'm moving on to the NetScaler integration. So again, this is an API-based integration. Configuring it is really super easy. Okay, let me show you how it looks like. When you click on Add NetScaler, you will be required to configure the protocol, the management IP address, and relevant credentials. Okay, we're using the Nitro API to get data from the NetScalers, and any user who has access to run the Nitro API will be able to gather data from here. Now, once this is configured, you can go to the new NetScaler view and look on the different NetScaler boxes you have added. In this case, we have a single NetScaler box configured in here. Now, the module itself is quite extensive. We have metrics on the NetScaler level itself. So this includes, the packet CPU percentage, memory usage, and quite a few metrics which will describe the health of this specific NetScaler box in regards to the percentage of healthy load balancers, gateways, and STAs, etc. So I'll show you the different drill downs in a sec, but you can see some of the high-level metrics we have in here, including, like, really useful from my point of view, the last config date, the last save dates, the days until the next SSL certificate will expire, which is again really useful if you want to get a quick overview of the health of the NetScaler box. Okay, now once we drill down into the NetScaler box itself, we can see the various entities we have added in here. So first we have the load balancers. So for each load balancer you have the the health itself, whether it's healthy, which means basically that all the load balancing services are up, or whether it's not healthy, meaning that all the connections are actually the load balancer services are down, like in this case, or partially healthy. If we have more than one NetScaler load balancer service, we can see that in this case one of them is up, one of them is down, obviously causing the health to be on 50%. Okay, the same is true for the load balancing services. This is a flat view showing you all the load balancing services which are part of this NetScaler environment, and the same for groups. Okay, besides load balancers, we have a full list of all the HDX sessions which are being routed via the NetScaler gateway configured in this box. We can both view them, but we can also terminate the sessions from here if for some reason it's not achievable via the XenDesktop API. Okay, so that's another pretty cool feature in here. We have the NetScaler gateways, again, with the number of users, with the state. We enable you to drill down into the NetScaler gateway and see the different STAs configured with their states. And finally, we have a flat list of the STAs across all the boxes and the network cards with the various in-out metrics. Okay, so all of these metrics are exposed in real time, and obviously you can configure them as part of the incident triggers feature. Okay, which means that you can basically get real-time alerts for specific NetScaler-related metric, whether it's the health metrics for load balancers, gateways, or metrics which are part of the NetScaler box itself. Now, one note of interest here. Currently in 7.1, you need to use the stress level incident trigger to configure NetScaler-related metrics. So, it's doable, it's achievable, we have customers doing it, but it's a bit complex. In ControlUp 7.2, we are adding a new incident trigger type, which will enable you to get alerts based on a single metric. Okay, so if all you care about is, for example, the percent of gateways, right? You will be able to go ahead and configure an incident trigger and only use that specific column for the trigger. Okay, and one final note about NetScaler. We are also working on historical reports for the NetScaler metrics. It will take more time to get them into insights, but just in case you have any questions on that part, it is in the part of the insights roadmap. Okay, moving on to the GPU integration we introduced in 7.1. So we have a bunch of GPU-enabled computers in here. I'm going to focus on that specific folder. So what we have in here, we actually have 3 different computers. 2 of them do have a GPU card installed, as you can see in here, and 1 machine is just for the demo sake, it's without a GPU, and I'll cover that in a sec. Okay, so we basically added the integration with the NVIDIA APIs in 2 levels. One is the VM level, and you can see it here in regards to the metadata metrics for the GPU, which includes the GPU architecture, the number of cores, the memory, the grid mod, the GPU model, etc., and the performance metrics, which include GPU usage and GPU memory usage and frame buffer. Okay, you can see them all in here, and we also integrated that with the processes data. Okay, so I want to show you what's happening in here actually. So these are the 2 remote sessions connected to the Windows 10 boxes. Okay, we have one box with both of them are running the same video, by the way. It's like a nice demo of Firebox. One of them is running on a Windows 10 without a GPU, and one of them running on a Windows 10 with a GPU card installed. And these are the two machines you see in here. Okay, both of them are running the same video. So I'm going to move. Actually, you can already see, by the way, in here that the CPU is working much harder on the non-GPU enabled computer, while the computer with the GPU has a much lower CPU usage, and that's directly related to the GPU card that is offloading the video processing. And another way to see that is by going to the processes view, and let me show you how this looks like. So the video app is actually called video.ui. That's the Windows 10 video application. So I'm going to sort. Yeah, okay, so here we go. These 2 videos here, as you can see in the sessions view, both of them is running the same. They're running the same movie as I've shown you here, right? So this is one session, and this is the other session in here. Both of them are running exactly the same movie, as you can see in here. But the major difference is that, as you can see in here, the VM without the GPU, the CPU usage of that specific process is hitting the roof. It's constantly on 60-70%. And the same process running the same video on the machine with the GPU is like really low CPU usage, because the GPU is actually offloading this video playback. And I'm showing you this just to show you how easy it is in ControlUp 7.1 to basically make sure that GPUs are utilized and go all the way down to the process or application level and see which apps are utilizing the GPU, and sometimes even more importantly, which apps are not utilizing the GPU. And we have customers running it in production already, and we have seen great value coming out of the GPU integration feature in 7.1. Okay, by the way, Matan, any questions so far you think?
Yes, absolutely, Yoni.
Yeah.
Do you want to address the GDPR compliance process that we are working on, or you want to keep it for later? Because I see few questions about this.
Oh yeah, no, I know. It's you know what? Let's tackle this right now before we continue the demo. So yeah, so first, a few things I want to mention. And I'm not sure everyone is aware of that. 2 months ago, we achieved the SOC 2 compliance, which is in many areas related to privacy and GDPR compliance as well. So we are now fully SOC 2 compliance. Anyone who wants to get like the official SOC 2 compliance paper, you can contact us, whether to sales or support, and we'll provide that. Now, in addition to that, we are actively working on our GDPR compliance. We're actually, in these days, we're working on our DPA, which is the Data Privacy Agreement. I'm hoping it will be ready in the next couple of weeks so we can share it with relevant customers. So our compliance team is fully on board working with our trusted advisors on the GDPR compliance, and it's in the works, right? So if anyone needs like a draft of the DPA, or just an intent letter saying that we are currently working on GDPR compliance, again, just contact our support or sales team, and we'll happy to provide those details. Okay, so assuming no other questions are open right now, I'm moving on to the last part of the 7.1 demo, because I also do want to cover the insights pitch, which is really great. So as mentioned during the initial intro, we really enhanced the host metadata data collection from the various hypervisors. So as some of you may noticed, we have a really great new metadata and metrics in 7.1 for the host entity. So this includes the server model, the host uptime, which is great, if you have any kind of reboot policy for your hosts. You can now see the manage my IP address of each host. And in addition, we have new interesting metrics for vSphere hosts, which includes the maintenance mode of the host, the vendor, the CPU model, the CPU speed, the BIOS release date, which is now crucial with all the Spectre meltdown patches, the power management policy, the CPU speed. So all of these new metadata and metrics columns are new in 7.1. Okay, so it's providing a much more complete picture of your vSphere, Hyper-V, or XenServer state. Okay, so in addition to the full-blown new metrics in the host view, we also enhanced some of the VM metrics. And the ones I like the most is actually the snapshot-related metrics. So if you see here in the virtual machine presets, you will see two new metrics. One is called VM snapshot exists, and the other is called VM snapshot size. And this is probably the easiest way to see if you have any bloated snapshots on your VMs. Just go to the computer's view, choose the virtual machine preset, and sort based on snapshot size. And you can see the data in real time. Okay, and last two miscellaneous feature in 7.1. One would be the new host scores. The score. Actually, we added for each entity a new preset, which can show you scores related to your entities. Okay, so let's start with the host view. We have a built-in column called host scores. And as you notice, when you choose this specific preset, you will no longer see tons of metrics, but rather you will see scores for each of the important metrics in your environment. Okay, so this includes CPU, RAM, disk, and network in the case of hosts. Now, this view might make more sense for some of you out there, because instead of watching, for example, 20 different related disk scores, you can see one column which aggregates all of them into a single score-based column. Okay, and this might be great for a heads-up display, or anyone who wants to get a high-level overview of his environment. And the same is true for any entity. So you can go to the computer's view, and again, you can switch to the computer score built-in preset, which looks like this. Okay, and then quickly sort based on any of the related score metrics to see which specific disk-related metric in this case was causing a high disk score. In this case, you can see that the free space metric is causing the disk score to be red on this specific VM here. Okay, and the same is true for sessions, and basically for any of the relevant metrics, we have added a new built-in column called entity score. In this case, it will be session score, and it's a simplified view of the entity, which basically a cleaner view that will not require you to view sometimes dozens different performance metrics, but just focus on a single score-based column. Okay, and the final thing I want to show you, and again, I know lots of customers have requested that, is that new in 7.1 we have the option to centrally manage the credentials used to connect to the various extensions. Okay, and let me explain. Before 7.1, whenever you added a hypervisor connection, a XenDesktop site, or any extension, each and every ControlUp user had to manually add the relevant credentials to his own credential store, which could be a real pain in large environments, or if you're using a service account and now you have to make sure all the users are aware of the service account credentials. So in 7.1 we have a great solution for that. So it's actually called the shared credential feature. in 7.1, you can configure it via the monitor settings. I'll show you how it looks like. So in the monitor settings, under the extension area in here, when you add a new credentials, you can actually configure it to be a shared credentials. And once this is selected in here, these credentials will be available for configuration on the relevant hypervisor, XenDesktop, or NetScaler connection. Okay, so as you can see in our case, we have a service account which is used for the VMware connection. It's shared. So you can see that in the vSphere extension, you can see that we are actually using this shared credential. Now this means that anyone who is approved via the security policy to use these specific shared credentials does not need to configure anything. He can just open his console and basically use these shared credentials to connect to the hypervisor, to the vSphere extension. Okay, so again, it's a much more secured and simplified way to connect to the extensions without asking each console user to manually input his credentials. Okay, so these are the major features in 7.1, and since we don't have a lot of time left, I want to cover and quickly jump to the insights and new features. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with Insights, this is our historical reporting and analytics dashboard. Okay, this is where we provide customers with historical view of their environment and with lots of really interesting analytics that enable them to understand, what's going on in their environment. Let me open some of the. Let's start with the new reports. Okay, so the first new report we added is the session user experience report. Okay, for those of you who are familiar with Insights, this report is quite similar to the session activity or session resources reports, but instead of showing resource consumption metrics or usage metrics, this report is all about the user experience metrics. Okay, so what you will see in here is a list of all the historical sessions that you're running in your environment based on the configured type frame, and for each session you can see the relevant user experience metrics, whether it's logon duration, average application load time, the max protocol latency, the peak protocol latency, the bandwidth usage, and the breakdown of the logon duration metrics. Okay, so it's a single place to quickly see user experience related metrics, and obviously you can sort it just like the real-time view. Okay, so if you're interested in viewing the sessions that had a long duration over the last 24 hours, just go to the session UX report and sort it based on logon duration. Okay, obviously you can export this to CSV or PDF formats and send it to the various team for additional work. Another new report we introduced last month is the sizing recommendation report. This is a really great report. It's basically made of two different areas. Okay, so the upper area is KPIs about your entire environment, showing you how good or bad are you in the sense of CPU and RAM right sizing. Okay, now the reports work in a way where it's actually crunching the last month worth of data from all of your managed computers. In this case, we have almost 100 computers worth of data, and this report is actually in real time crunching the data, and based on that, it will show you the stats you're seeing in here. Okay, so for example, you can see that from a CPU perspective, almost 80% of my computers are oversized, 50% are right size, and 7% are undersized. Okay, and you can see the CPU groups, right? So out of the 80% who are oversized, 60% are oversized by one CPU, and 30% are oversized by 2 to 4 CPUs. Okay, we also have global benchmarks here. So you can see that our ControlUp corporate environment is 60% better than the other organizations, and from a RAM perspective, you can see that we are better than 64% of the environments. Okay, so this is the high-level stats, and down here you can see the actual recommendations on a per workload basis. Okay, so we have here the workload name, the currently assigned CPU. You know what? Let me choose an interesting example here. Okay, so let's look on this workload, the IOPQA server. So you see we have 12 assigned CPUs, but we actually suggest removing 9 of them and leaving just 3 CPUs assigned. And from a RAM perspective, we currently have 16 gigs assigned, but we actually recommend removing 9 gigs of RAM. Now, you can always click on the plus button in here, and the report will show you the last month of data with 1 hour data points of the CPU and memory usage, which can prove to you why these recommendations are actually make sense. Okay, so if we'll review this real quick, the CPU part will show you the blue line will show you the assigned CPUs. The dotted red line will show you our recommendation. And this line here will show you the actual CPU usage. So you can see that over the last month, the CPU usage rarely was above, 3%, and the peaks never crossed, 3 CPU based box. And this is why you're recommending these numbers you see here. And the same is for RAM, right? The blue line is the assigned RAM. The dotted line is what we suggest, and this line here is the actual RAM usage over time. Okay, so go ahead, test us, right? Check this size and recommendation report, whether look on the overall KPIs for your environment or check specific workloads, and I think you can gain tremendous value from this report, right? Because again, what we've seen in the benchmark that most of the environments are not properly sized. In fact, I think it would be fair to say that most workloads are way oversized, whether it's from a RAM or CPU's perspective, and this report will enable you to do excellent fine-tuning. So you can go ahead, embrace some of the recommendations, and then go back to this report after a few days and see if the stats change or not. Okay, and the final new addition to the ControlUp Insights family is the Environment Assessment Report. This is still in beta. This will go live to the entire customer base hopefully next week. And this is a pretty massive report by itself. This is, again, we are crunching the last month worth of data in real time. And by doing that, we actually provide a really full picture of your estate along with usage details, resource consumption trends, bottlenecks, sizings, etc. So let's cover quickly some of the widgets we have in here. First, the top bar will show you some stats about the environment we are assessing here. So total number of hosts, virtual machines, managed computers, sessions, users, apps, etc. We have very interesting OS distribution and host distribution. There is a bug in here. This actually is our vSphere environment. It's going to be fixed in the live report going GA next week. But you can quickly see the distribution of host versions and OS distribution in here. So you can see, if you have maybe old Windows boxes still running in your environment. The resource usage trends will show you over the last month worth of data what's the average usage, right, for hosts, for computers, and also for sessions, which is pretty interesting. The sessions will also show you some of the user experience metrics, right? So what you see here, this is the average login duration over the last month based on all the sessions data we have. So you can see that in our environment, things are really great. The average login duration is rarely crossing 10 seconds. And also for latency point of view, you can see that the average latency is usually around 50, 20 milliseconds. Okay, the application heat map will show you what are the most popular processes or applications in your environment. We're monitoring 2 KPIs. One is the number of users, and the other one is the number of instances. So you can see the popular apps in our environment. In addition, we have kind of like an assessment that shows you distributions of light, medium, and heavy users and computers. And this is great for assessing your current environment and why what might need to be done from a resource consumption or sizing perspective. Okay, we have these widgets here are a bit similar to the sizing sizing report, but this will show you it on a resource consumption basis. So what you see in here is the actual assigned specs and the usage specs. And you can see that our environment is, we have room to grow, right? Because, for example, from a RAM perspective on our hosts, we are utilizing roughly half of the RAM resources. And the same is true for CPUs. And you can see a similar view, but from the managed computers point of view. Okay? And finally, we have the top consumers. Okay, so you can see, again, over the course of the last month, you can see the top consumers from a CPU, RAM, disk, and network metrics for hosts, for computers, for users and applications. So again, lots of data. We probably need a full webinar just to cover this report. So stay tuned. This is coming live next week. Just log into ControlUp Insights. Make sure you have a monitor service, connected to your environment uploading data, and you will see all this great information you see in here. So Matan, before wrapping up, any questions about the insights piece, the various reports?
Yeah, I see some questions about the assessment report. People are basically asking Yoni, how do we expect to cover the gap between Insights on-prem and Insights Cloud? So they ask if the assessment report is going to be, which is, I know that it's not going to be in IOP 3, and so on and so forth. So they ask if there is like any concrete roadmap to cover the gap between the cloud and the on-prem IOP.
Okay, thanks. So regarding IOP, right? So obviously, it's always easier to innovate in the cloud-based SaaS solution, and this is why you see the gap between the online insights solution and the on-premises insights module. The good news are that once we release IOP 3.0, which is again already in the release candidate phase, our next steps is to actually start closing the gap. So the first report we're going to add to IOP is Top Insights, and after that we'll add, Session UX and the sizing recommendations, etc. So it will take a while, and we will share with with the prospects and customers updates once we have them. But hopefully, in a matter of a couple of months, we can start closing the gaps between the Insights on-premises offering and the online Insights application. Okay, so we are working on that, and the good news is that we now have a whole team working on the on-premises solution. Okay, so I know we are almost out of time, so I just want to wrap up and say some final updates and interesting remarks. So first, thank you for joining. I know it was packed, but hopefully you have seen the value we have added in ControlUp 7.1 and the new insights reports. For all the prospects out there, we have a full-blown 21 days free trial. Just go to the website and download it. We offer a special discount for all the webinar attendees. So just contact your relevant account manager to get that. We also we are raffling an Apple Watch for all the attendees. So watch out your inbox. We will send a note to the winner in the next couple of days. And again, I really want to thank you for your attendance. Go ahead, test our new versions, and stay tuned for the ControlUp 7.2 webinar, which will hopefully be in the next month or two. And finally, one last word. We are going to obviously participate in Synergy. We are one of the gold sponsors. We are also going to sponsor the Nutanix event, which is fortunately or not, depending on your point of view, is happening at the same time. So anyone who is planning to visit one of these events, go find us in the booth. We're going to be there demoing both 7.1 Insights, the on-prem solution, and obviously ControlUp 7.2 and the new releases. So again, thank you. Have a great day. Matan, any final question before we?
Yeah, Yoni, just before you wrap up. So first, I see great feedbacks here in the chat. Okay, I guess that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matan. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, bye.